Investigators believe Syed Farook, along with someone else, may have been plotting an earlier attack in California. This is according to two U.S. officials we've been speaking with. One of these officials saying the two conspired back in 2012, and a specific target was even considered. They scoped out the area, picked out a target, but neither of the officials could say how serious this plotting got. In other words, how far along they were in launching the attack. The officials said the two decided not to go through with this after a round of terror-related arrests in that area, saying that they simply got spooked at the time. And this is bolstering the belief, John, that law enforcement has been saying publicly, the FBI saying that Farook was radicalized for a period of time before the San Bernardino attacks. And we are also learning from officials that that Farook and his friend had been conspiring to do bad things. That is a direct quote from this officials. And they have discovered the extent of these plans following the San Bernardino attacks. As we've been hearing, John, Farook was not on the radar of law enforcement. So this is something, of course, that they're going back to look at and say, look, did we miss something along the way?
We turn right now to Senator James Risch, who is on the Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee. Thanks so much for joining us.
Jake.
Really appreciate it. So we just learned moments ago that this neighbor, Enrique Marquez, who was the neighbor and longtime friend of one of the terrorists in San Bernardino.
And a shirt-tail relative, we're told, too, by marriage to him.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
By some long stretch, but he is a shirt-tail relative,
okay,
and a friend, and a roommate, former roommate, and a neighbor.
And we had heard yesterday, CNN breaking the story, that Farook had planned in 2012 but didn't carry out a terrorist attack. Now we're learning that it was with Enrique Marquez, and he's the one telling intelligence officials. What more can you tell us?
Well, really not much more than that. Other than that is breaking news. It's brand new that he has admitted that in 2012 they had something in mind, and they didn't do it because there had been some immediate arrests by the counterterrorism people right there in the immediate area. And as a result of that, they got cold feet and didn't go ahead with it.
Spooked them to a degree. Is Marquez in? We had been told that he had checked himself into a hospital, a mental or psychological treatment center of some sort after the attacks. Is he in custody right now?
You know, I'm told that he is not in custody, but I would suspect that's not going to last very long, unless he's got some kind of a deal cut. Which is entirely possible. If he's gotten a lawyer and gotten a deal cut, that's possible. But just the admissions that he's made, plus the fact of the weapons, that he was responsible for originally obtaining these weapons, sounds like right around the time that they were planning the first attack. That's sufficient for a conviction right there, just with his admissions and the actual steps towards doing an attack. That would be purchasing the weapons. So.
We are told, Pamela and Evan reported, that he waived his Miranda rights, so he at least had been read them. Whether or not he's in custody, I don't know. Senator, do we have any idea what kind of plot this was in 2012?
You know, really not much more than that. I think people are still trying to sort out whether or not it was detailed or whether it was a generality, and obviously you got a long spectrum there where they were on the spectrum of actually doing that. But it was far enough that apparently he's admitted that this was a specific plot, that they were going to carry it out, and that they abandoned the plans because of arrests that took place in the area.
Obviously, as in the intelligence community and the national security community remind us all the time, they have to be right 100% of the time, and the bad guys only have to be right once. And obviously, the only people responsible for this are the killers and those who gave them money or inspired them. But can you look at this situation and point to areas where the intelligence community could have done something better, could have caught this plot before it happened, the one that just took place last week?
You know, Jake, that's actually one of the responsibilities we have on the Intelligence Committee, is as oversight to do this sort of thing, look at it from the Monday morning quarterback position. Obviously, they do that themselves long before it comes to us. Having said that, and having gone through this in detail, there is very little that they could have done differently in this case. A couple of the choke points that are being looked at is, first of all, something that struck me from the very beginning on this is the fact that both of these people. And by the way, there were a number of us that right after this suspected that the wife was much more deeply involved than people were saying right at the beginning. And as it turns out, that was obviously correct. She came in on this visa, on the fiancé visa, and based on the information we have right now, she was probably radicalized at the time that she passed the tests in order to come in on that fiancé visa. So that's a point that obviously we're going to look at. Having said that, it's hard to really blame people for that, in that she comes from Pakistan, an area where you can't just go to interview neighbors or go on the internet or something like that. Now, it turns out, apparently, she attended the Red Mosque in Islamabad, which might
an infamous mosque
which might raise a red flag.
Yeah.
Right. So that's something that's being looked at. The broader concern and the deeper concern at this point is the fact that for those of us that do this all the time, it's really difficult to believe that they weren't getting conversation from someone who's much more experienced in this sort of thing than they were. And if that's the case, how are they doing it? Well, over the last 6 to 9 months, what's happened is the people who are doing this have turned more and more to encryption apps and what they call the dark web, where they can actually do this sort of thing, and nobody can, at least at this point in time, nobody can pierce those methods of communication. Whether that lasts or not, we'll see.
Very chilling, and obviously it kind of undermines the idea that this was necessarily ISIS-inspired, because if they were radicalized in 2011, 2012, ISIS was only beginning, didn't have near the outreach that it has today.
And obviously, we're always interested in whether it was ISIS-inspired or ISIS-directed. Doesn't make a lot of difference to the victims, but it makes a lot of difference as you try to Monday morning quarterback this thing.
And fend off further attacks.
Yep,
all right, Senator Risch, thank you so much.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.